Yesterday, last night, the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions faced off down in Dallas. And, it was a back and forth game. Obviously, I don't think it went the way many people thought. I think everyone thought it would be a high scoring shootout. A lot of, the Lions would get the ball moving on the ground. Dallas would get the ball moving through the air. Not so much the case, more of a defensive battle that comes down to the wire. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of the game, let's talk about the end, because there was controversy in Dallas and it had huge implications on this postseason. Let's not overlook that. The Detroit Lions go down the field, minute 30 left, no timeout, score what would be potentially tying touchdown, 19-20. They elect to go for two. Dan Campbell, otherwise known as Dan Gamble, elects to go for two. They hit Taylor Decker in the corner of the end zone for what very well could be a walk-off winner. 23 seconds left on the clock. Flags thrown after the play. An eligible man downfield. Richard, how in the world does this happen?
It's clearly a mistake on Brad Allen's part. Just going through routine and not actually seeing and listening to how the Lions wanted to negotiate this eligible receiver. Clearly, you see Penei Sewell and Decker walking up to him. You clearly see the swing tackle coming onto the field and him running away before there's even an real interaction between he and Decker. So he's just assuming, hey, the swing tackle's coming in. I know what you guys are about to tell me. He's assuming, it's very presumptuous. Hey, he's the guy reporting eligible. He's the guy doing this. And Decker was trying to do it in the most subtle way. So you could see him trying to do it with kind of like one hand, like on his belly, like, hey, it's me. I'm reporting eligible. But it doesn't seem like Brad Allen got that. And so he went with what he thought was happening. Obviously, Dan Campbell said, he told him before the game, if we go for a 2-point conversion, this is what we're going to do. We want him to be eligible. We want the other guy to be eligible, and we'll go about it. And so it was really weird. It was a very bizarre play because Decker was not covered up on the play, as you would assume an ineligible tackle would be. He'd be covered up by a wide receiver. The receiver was off the ball. The receiver checked with the referee. If the receiver, that same referee is the one who called ineligible man downfield, which is odd because after you check, they would say, you're off the ball. There's not a tight end there. Flag. That's illegal formation. But they didn't say that, which tells me they thought it was a legal formation until they went down the field, which is, it leaves a lot of question marks. Something magical happens when the third quarter ends and the fourth quarter begins. The energy changes. The fourth quarter is where games are won, where champions are made. And in business, it's where sales teams become legends. That's why HubSpot built Sales Hub to give sales reps the deal-making tools they need to win in Q4 and close the year strong. Sales Hub's prospecting workspace organizes your schedule, goals, and to-do list in one place to save your team precious fourth quarter time. Smart sequences help sales reps close deals faster than ever. With an easy-to-use management tool, reps can find, track, and close deals all in one place. Plus, AI forecasting helps you accurately predict future success, which means less hoping for deals and more crushing targets. Put your sales team on the fast track to winning Q4 with Sales Hub. Learn more at HubSpot.com/sales. And at the end of the day, they gave it to Dallas, and Dallas is likely going to have another home game now. Dak Prescott played an incredible game, 26 of 38, 345, 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb broke the record for a wide receiver in Dallas, the regular season record for yardage, breaking Michael Irvin's record that he set multiple times. He had 227 yards in the game, a career high. He had a 95-yard reception, also a career and franchise high for the Dallas Cowboys. It was an incredible game for him. He was out there cooking. They had no answers for him, and that has to be concerning going forward because on the other side, Jared Goff, he played okay. He had 2 interceptions, very costly interception on that out route late in the game, but Again, they still had a chance late. Jahmyr Gibbs played solid. He combined with David Montgomery played a really good game. I think they both had impacts. Amon-Ra St. Brown played a good game. Your guy Sam Laporta played a good game. And then Aiden Hutchinson, 3 sacks. I mean, he had a third of his sacks in this one game. Mitchell, he was all over the place. But you have to be able to cover him. If CeeDee Lamb is their guy and he was their guy going in, again, it goes back to Aaron Glenn and his defense. Like, what are you thinking? There was a play where they went zero. They went zero coverage, and the guy closed his eyes in the end zone where it could have been a safety. You talk about a 2-point ball game. They lose by 1 point, and that's a 9-point swing, a 8-point swing, whatever it is, when you could have had a safety, but instead you give up 7 points. I think at the end of the day, that was the difference in the ball game, because that swung the momentum in a different way. You talk about a safety where you get the ball back and you give your offense the ball back and the momentum's going your way and you're making them feel away. But instead, it's a touchdown against zero coverage. And so that was a huge mistake by them. But you got to give credit to Dallas. You got to think about their fans and how they're feeling and how they went from thinking they lost this game and they're the 5th seed and they got a lot of questions to being answered to a flag changing that. They get the win. Philadelphia goes and loses at home to the Arizona Cardinals, which gives them the 2 seed now and gives them a home playoff game. And I mean, can't feel better than them right now.
It's just wild. I mean, that's why this Brad Allen controversial call, it changes everything, Rich. And it also changes the San Francisco 49ers having a bye week next week, because otherwise they'd have to beat the Rams. Otherwise, the Lions could get the number 1 overall seed. There's a lot of what ifs in this game. I mean, the Lions elected to go for it on 4th and goal instead of kicking a field goal earlier in the game, which would inevitably been a difference maker for them. Obviously, after Dan Campbell got the flag on the ineligible touching an ineligible man downfield, they could have kicked the field goal or extra point to go to OT. There's a lot of what ifs, but the Lions' DNA, they don't care, man. They're going to take risks. They're going to take shots. And the reality is, if they can get out of this first round, if both these teams can get out of the first round, we're going to have a replay of this exact same game, and Brad Allen's input in it will be irrelevant. The biggest hurdle will be the Lions have to go down to Dallas versus the Cowboys having to come up to Detroit.
See East. In the NFC, it's as simple as this. The road runs through the 49ers. The Cowboys win in Washington next week. They will win the NFC East after an all-time December collapse for the Eagles. So let's set the table at what's at stake. As I mentioned, Dallas wins, the division is theirs. Jacksonville wins, the division is theirs. Tampa wins, the division is theirs. And then it's either Buffalo or Miami to win the AFC East. So a lot of teams have it all in their control. All right, so that's how it looks. A lot of teams have a lot at stake. What caught your eye there the most?
Who's going to get the bigger bottle of wine from Jerry Jones, Brad Allen or Jonathan Gannon?
That's fair. That's fair. You have to think about it. It's amazing they're in this position.
It's unbelievable what's happened in the last 18 hours for the Cowboys. They went from maybe being the 5th seed going into the playoffs on a down note to a realistic chance, a very viable chance to be the 2 seed and win the division. Unbelievable turn of events in the last 18 hours for the Cowboys.
Tim?
Well, I would agree with Mike. You look at Washington, I think they've dropped 10 of their last 12. Like, they're going to win next week. And so Dallas, except for having to go to San Francisco, will get to play home games. We know how much different they've been at home. I think the biggest story, though, is Lamar Jackson's healthy, and the Ravens are the 1 seed. Like, that is huge news as you look at the landscape of the AFC. It's one thing that, look, we've seen Baltimore have really good regular seasons, going into the postseason, but we questioned Lamar's health. You have a healthy MVP on the number 1 seed in the AFC. I think that's a big deal for the rest of the AFC.
And Mike, when you think about it here, obviously somebody's going to have to win the AFC South. Somebody has to win the NFC South. But I just want to take from a macro perspective, the fact that Indianapolis is still in this thing and the fact that Houston is in this thing, brand new quarterbacks.
Và cuối cùng nha các bạn, cái phần cuối cùng nó sẽ là màu xanh lá cây nhạt nhé. Cắt đi này. Rồi, sau đó thì mình sẽ cắt cái phần ở giữa này ra. Ok, sau đó thì mình sẽ nối những cái hình trái tim lại với nhau nhé các bạn. Các bạn sẽ mở hết những cái hình trái tim này ra cho mình. Các bạn sẽ mở hết ra đi. Mình đang gập nó lại rồi, bây giờ mình mở nó ra. Cái phần màu vàng nhạt có vẻ là mình đang cắt hơi bị mỏng một tí. Rồi, xanh dương này, cam này, tím này. Sau khi mà cắt xong nhé các bạn, thì các bạn sẽ cắt những cái đoạn nhỏ nhỏ này đi cho mình. Cắt này, cắt một đường thẳng để chia cái phần hình trái tim này ra nha. Các bạn sẽ cắt về một hướng thôi. Ví dụ các bạn cắt cái phần hình trái tim nó sẽ về cái góc bên trái, thì tất cả các cái phần hình trái tim còn lại các bạn cũng cắt như vậy. Sau đó các bạn, thì bước tiếp theo là mình sẽ đi nối các cái phần hình trái tim này lại với nhau. Đây, các bạn sẽ nối và các bạn xỏ nó vào với nhau như này nhá. Sau đó các bạn sẽ dán keo vào này, rồi các bạn sẽ nối nó vào như này. Tiếp theo đến màu tím và màu xanh, đúng không? Đây, và các bạn sẽ đối với cái phần phối màu này thì các bạn để cái phần màu nào nó gần với màu nào thì đó là tùy các bạn nhé. Rồi tiếp theo đến màu vàng đi. Tiếp theo đến màu tím là mình sẽ có màu vàng nhé. Đây như các bạn, sau màu tím thì mình sẽ có màu vàng như thế này. Đây, các bạn sẽ để xuống để các bạn sẽ cắt cho nó dễ nhé. Tiếp theo mình sẽ cho phần màu đỏ này ở giữa đi để nhìn cho nó rực rỡ nhé. Đỏ này. Rồi, đỏ xong thì mình sẽ cho màu xanh dương. Xanh dương này. Sau đó đến màu hồng nhé các bạn. Hồng đi. Rồi, tiếp theo màu hồng thì mình sẽ có màu cam nhé. Màu cam hoặc là màu xanh là cây nhạt đi. Xanh là cây nhạt đi. Để đỡ hai cái phần màu xanh nó sẽ ở hai cái phần ở bên ngoài thì mình cũng không thích. Bây giờ mình sẽ cho cái phần màu cam này và cái phần màu xanh dương. Màu xanh là cây. Rồi, như vậy là màu cam sẽ ở bên ngoài cùng như này. Ở đây thì các bạn sẽ thấy là mình đã có được một cái phần hình trái tim trang trí lồng vào nhau như này rồi, đúng không? Và cái bước tiếp theo nhé là mình sẽ đi cắt những cái hình trái tim nhỏ hơn, màu trắng nhé các bạn. Mình sẽ để cái phần hình trái tim của mình ở đây. Sau đó ở trên này mình sẽ có 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cái phần hình trái tim màu như này, đúng không? Bây giờ thì mình sẽ đi cắt 8 hình trái tim màu trắng nhỏ hơn để mình sẽ dán ở đâu? Mình sẽ dán ở những cái góc mà mình cắt cái hình trái tim nhiều màu ấy các bạn, để mình nối nó vào. Bây giờ mình sẽ cắt 8 hình trái tim nhé. Thì cái hình trái tim này thì các bạn cắt nhỏ thôi, miễn sao là mình dán vừa vào cái phần mà mình dán keo kia là được. Bây giờ mình sẽ cắt này. Đây thì bạn thấy là cái hình trái tim của mình sẽ rất là nhỏ như này thôi. Đây như các bạn, đây sẽ là 8 cái hình trái tim của mình. Sau đó thì mình sẽ dán 8 cái hình trái tim này. Mình sẽ dán lên bên trên của cái đây. Mình sẽ dán những cái hình trái tim nhỏ màu trắng này. Mình sẽ dán lên bên trên cái phần những cái hình trái tim to như thế này nhé. Dán keo vào đây này. Rồi, tiếp tục này. Các bạn dán vào đây như thế này. Rồi, mình sẽ dán nốt 4 cái hình trái tim còn lại nhé. Dán vào đây. Tiếp tục này. Mình còn 2 cái hình cuối cùng nha các bạn. 2 cái hình cuối cùng thôi. Rồi, hình cuối cùng nha. Mình sẽ dán keo vào như này. Đây, như vậy là mình đã hướng dẫn xong các bạn cách làm một cái phần dây trang trí hình trái tim với 8 hình trái tim và nhiều màu như thế này. Cảm ơn các bạn đã theo dõi và hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo nhé.